On the morning of May 8, 1969, police in Bristol, England, discovered the body of a 93-year-old woman in an unremarkable terrace house on Park Avenue. She had choked to death on a piece of chicken bone. Neighbors knew her only as Mrs. Dennis, a quiet, elderly lady of faded elegance who lived modestly with her housekeeper. They did not know this frail woman, found dead in such humble circumstances, was once among the most powerful and scandalous figures in British high society. She was Almina Herbert, the 5th Countess of Carnarvon, the woman whose vast fortune funded the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb and the real-life inspiration for the Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey star. But behind the glittering facade of aristocratic respectability lay decades of shocking secrets, illegal activities, and moral compromises that would have destroyed lesser mortals. From her controversial birth as an illegitimate child through blackmail scandals, adultery trials, and whispered rumors of illegal abortions performed in her exclusive nursing homes, Almina's story reads like the darkest Victorian melodrama. The police report noted the modest house contained only a few remnants of former grandeur, a silver photograph frame with the image of a magnificent castle, some faded letters tied with ribbon, and a jewelry box holding nothing but costume pieces. Yet this same woman had once owned priceless Rothschild treasures, commanded the loyalty of kings, and held the power to make or destroy reputations across London's most exclusive circles. Before we continue with the story of Lady Almina Carnarvon, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments which state or city you're watching from. This tale of American-style ambition meeting British aristocracy is going to shock you to the core. The woman who died alone in Bristol that spring day had once commanded the loyalty of wounded soldiers, the devotion of powerful men, and the fear of London's aristocratic elite. Her rise and fall represent one of the most extraordinary and disturbing sagas in the annals of the British aristocracy. A story that reveals how corruption and deception can flourish even in the most respectable surroundings, and how the pursuit of power and respectability can ultimately consume those who sacrifice their souls to achieve them. In the golden age of Victorian England, when the sun never set on the British Empire and aristocratic privilege seemed as eternal as the stones of Westminster Abbey, few institutions appeared more solid than the great country estates. Highclere Castle in Hampshire, with its towering Gothic Revival architecture and 5,000 pristine acres, embodied this seemingly unshakable world of hereditary power and endless wealth. The castle's honey-colored stone walls had witnessed generations of Herbert family history, from medieval knights to Georgian politicians, each adding their own layer to the estate's accumulated prestige. Yet beneath the polished veneer of drawing-room conversations and elaborate dinner parties, the reality was far more precarious. By the 1890s, many of Britain's greatest houses teetered on the brink of financial ruin, their noble owners trapped between the crushing costs of maintaining their ancestral seats and the rigid social expectations that forbade them from commerce. The agricultural depression that began in the 1870s had devastated the rental income that formed the backbone of aristocratic wealth, while rising costs for households, grounds, and social calendars created an economic crisis threatening the hereditary system itself. Highclere Castle required a staff of more than 80 servants to function. From the butler overseeing the household hierarchy to the undergardeners maintaining the formal gardens, the annual coal bill alone consumed thousands of pounds. The costs of entertaining, essential for maintaining social position, could bankrupt a family in a single season. The Great Library, with its leather-bound volumes and priceless manuscripts, required constant maintenance costing more per year than most middle-class families earned in a decade. Into this world of magnificent desperation came a most unusual arrangement, one that would bind together 3 lives in a web of secrets, ambition, and ultimate destruction. The central figure in this drama was not born to nobility, nor even to legitimacy. But her story would reshape the very foundations of one of England's most prestigious earldoms. London in the 1870s buzzed with the energy of empire and industry, a city where ancient traditions collided daily with the revolutionary forces of modern capitalism. The traditional aristocracy found themselves sharing social space with railway barons, mining magnates, and banking dynasties whose fortunes dwarfed those of earls and dukes whose families had ruled English counties for centuries. The city's elite society operated according to unforgiving rules, simultaneously rigid and surprisingly flexible. Bloodline determined everything, scandal meant social death, and women existed primarily to serve the interests of the men who controlled their fates. Yet, even within these constraints, some individuals found ways to accumulate tremendous power, often at costs that only became clear decades later. The key was understanding that Victorian society, for all its moral pretensions, was fundamentally transactional. Reputation could be bought, social position negotiated, and even the most sacred institutions manipulated by those who understood the hidden mechanisms governing the elite. The banking houses of the City of London represented a new form of aristocracy, built on financial acumen rather than ancient lineage. Their resources made traditional aristocratic wealth seem almost quaint, and their influence extended far beyond commerce into politics, social policy, and matters of war and peace. Among these modern princes, none was more enigmatic or influential than Alfred de Rothschild, scion of the legendary banking dynasty that had reshaped European finance through unprecedented wealth and discretion. Known for lavish entertainments at his Mayfair mansion, Alfred moved effortlessly between high finance and high society, hosting dinner parties where cabinet ministers discussed policy with foreign ambassadors, while actresses and opera singers provided entertainment pushing the boundaries of Victorian respectability. His annual income exceeded that of most German princes, and his art collection rivaled major European museums. Yet for all his wealth and connections, he remained an outsider to the hereditary nobility, a man who could buy almost anything except unquestioned acceptance into the innermost circles of British aristocratic power. This exclusion reflected deeper anxieties about the changing nature of British society. The old certainties of blood and breeding were giving way to the raw power of industrial and financial wealth. Nowhere was this transition more visible than in the marriage negotiations governing aristocratic society. Ancient families chose between financial survival and social purity, while nouveau riche dynasties like the Rothschild sought to purchase through marriage the legitimacy centuries of banking success could not provide. It was Alfred who would orchestrate the extraordinary arrangement that brought legitimacy to an illegitimate child, salvation to a bankrupt earl, and scandal to a generation of British society. The consequences would echo through the corridors of Highclere Castle for nearly a century, leaving behind a trail of secrets some would kill to protect and others would die to expose. What began as a simple transaction, money for status, would evolve into something far more complex and dangerous, a system of mutual dependence and shared corruption that would ultimately consume everyone involved. The circumstances of Almina Victoria Marie Alexandra Wombwell's birth on April 14, 1876, were shrouded in the deliberate obscurity Victorian society perfected for uncomfortable truths. Official records list her parents as Captain Frederick Charles Wombwell, a retired British Army officer, and his French wife, Marie Boyer. But these documents, like so much about Almina's life, represented a carefully constructed fiction concealing a far more complicated reality. Marie Boyer Wombwell was a woman of extraordinary beauty and circumstances, embodying the complex social dynamics that would define her daughter's existence. Born to a respectable French banking family, she spoke 4 languages fluently, played piano to concert standard, and moved through European high society with confidence. Her marriage to Frederick Wombwell appeared a conventional union between families of similar standing. Frederick came from an ancient Yorkshire family with connections to racing and the military, possessing easy charm that made him popular in London's clubland. But appearances, as Almina's entire life would demonstrate, could be catastrophically deceiving. The Wombwell marriage was a disaster from its earliest days, marked by financial irregularities, sexual incompatibility, and a fundamental mismatch of temperaments. Frederick proved unreliable, a euphemism covering chronic gambling and suspected embezzlement from his wife's family. He contracted substantial debts through racing and card playing, attempting to resolve them through desperate expedients including forging his wife's signature and stealing her jewelry. His drinking progressed from social excess to severe alcoholism. By the early 1870s, Marie had effectively separated from her husband, though divorce remained virtually impossible for a woman of her social position. She remained technically bound to Frederick despite complete estrangement, existing in a legal limbo making her vulnerable to gossip and manipulation. It was during this marital crisis that she became involved with Alfred de Rothschild. What began as social acquaintance evolved into something far more intimate and consequential. Alfred, a confirmed bachelor showing little interest in conventional matrimony, seemed captivated by Marie's intelligence, sophistication, and European elegance. Their relationship operated according to complex social codes governing extramarital affairs among the Victorian elite. Officially, they maintained the fiction their connection was mere friendship and mutual intellectual interest. Alfred was introduced as Marie's financial advisor and later as her daughter's godfather, titles providing social cover for a relationship everyone understood but no one acknowledged. In reality, Alfred became Marie's primary means of support, providing a house in Mayfair, a generous annual allowance, and access to social circles closed to her as a separated wife. Contemporary bank records show regular substantial payments from Alfred's personal account to Marie's household expenses. He provided jewelry, artwork, and luxury items, establishing her as one of London's most fashionably dressed women despite her technically precarious position. When Marie announced her pregnancy in late 1875, the timing presented both crisis and opportunity. Frederick Wombwell was officially still her husband, providing legal cover for the child's legitimacy and protecting all parties from scandal. But those close understood the girl born that April bore little resemblance to the man whose name she carried. Instead, Almina possessed delicate features and quick intelligence observers noted were remarkably similar to Alfred de Rothschild. The child's unusual name, referencing both parents while acknowledging neither, provided another clue. More telling was Alfred's immediate and intense interest in the baby's welfare, going far beyond conventional godfatherly duties. The arrangement emerging from this delicate situation set the pattern for Almina's entire life, a carefully constructed facade of respectability concealing reality built on secrets, financial manipulation, and ruthless pursuit of social advancement. Alfred became Almina's unofficial guardian and benefactor, showering her with gifts while maintaining the fiction of his godfatherly role. Frederick Wombwell, presumably compensated for discretion, played his role as distant but acknowledged father with resignation. Even as a child, Almina understood her position was precarious and her survival depended on navigating the complex deception surrounding her birth. Those who knew her described a girl of unusual precocity, possessing an almost frightening ability to read social situations and manipulate them to her advantage. She learned early that survival depended not on truth or virtue, but on skillful management of appearances and careful cultivation of powerful allies. The most disturbing aspect was how completely it normalized deception as a way of life. Almina grew up understanding her very existence was built on lies about her parentage, her family's finances, and the true nature of relationships governing her world. This early immersion in duplicity would prove both her greatest strength and ultimate downfall. As Almina approached her 17th birthday in 1893, the carefully constructed edifice of her early life began revealing both strengths and fundamental instability. Under Alfred's lavish patronage, she had transformed from an illegitimate child into one of London's most sought-after débutantes. Her education was impeccable, conducted by private tutors selected for discretion. She spoke fluent French, German, and Italian, played piano to near professional standard, and possessed sophisticated understanding of art, literature, and music. Her wardrobe, personally overseen by Alfred, was magnificent beyond what most legitimate aristocratic daughters could expect. More importantly, her social connections were carefully cultivated through Alfred's influence to open doors throughout British society's highest levels. Yet beneath this glittering surface, darker currents flowed. Alfred's generosity toward Almina had not gone unnoticed, and uncomfortable questions were asked about their relationship's true nature. Some whispered Alfred's interest was more than paternal, a suggestion almost certainly false but highlighting the precarious nature of Almina's position. Others speculated more accurately about her true parentage, noting physical resemblances and unusual legal arrangements. Court records show Alfred established complex trusts and financial instruments for Almina's future, arrangements far beyond conventional godfatherly duty. These rumors intersected with larger anxieties about British society's changing nature in the 1890s. The old certainties of blood and breeding gave way to raw industrial and financial wealth's power. Nowhere was this transition more visible than in the aristocratic marriage market. Young men of ancient lineage courted railway barons' daughters while impoverished earls calculated American heiresses' value with commodity traders' precision. The 1893 social season was particularly notable for financially motivated marriages dominating headlines and increasingly open discussion of economic calculations governing aristocratic matchmaking. Families once choosing partners based on lineage now prioritized financial advantage, creating unions satisfying economic necessity while breeding social tension and personal unhappiness. Into this atmosphere of barely concealed desperation entered George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert, future 5th Earl of Carnarvon. Born 1866 into one of England's most distinguished families, Herbert represented everything British aristocracy was supposed to embody: ancient lineage traced to the Norman conquest, inherited titles commanding automatic respect, and vast estates accumulated over centuries. The Herbert family had served English kings for 8 centuries, providing statesmen, soldiers, and diplomats shaping British history. Highclere Castle was a monument to aristocratic continuity, its Gothic Revival architecture incorporating medieval elements while showcasing successive generations' wealth and taste. The library contained one of England's finest private manuscript collections. Art galleries displayed treasures rivaling major European museums. But like many of his generation, Herbert embodied the weakness eating the aristocratic system from within. His problems were depressingly typical: youth spent in approved aristocratic pursuits, gambling at St. James's clubs, racing at Ascot and Newmarket, expensive entertainment essential for maintaining social position, without attention to managing his inheritance. Herbert's financial irresponsibility was staggering even by his spendthrift generation standards. Contemporary records suggest by his mid-20s he faced debts exceeding £200,000, an enormous sum equivalent to millions today. Highclere's running costs alone exceeded his estate's income, while personal expenditures on gambling, racing, and entertainment threatened his ancient earldom's survival. More troubling were rumors about Herbert's character. Those who knew him described a man of weak moral fiber and disturbing appetites, whose outward charm concealed fundamental character defects, making him unfit for his responsibilities. His travels to Egypt, later claimed motivated by archaeological interest and health concerns, were widely understood fueled by attraction to Cairo's brothel districts and opium dens. Society physicians discreetly treated Herbert for continental maladies, a euphemism for sexually transmitted diseases contracted during Eastern adventures. Treatments were expensive and ongoing, suggesting serious condition and ingrained behavior patterns. More disturbing were implications for any future marriage, as diseases could be transmitted to a wife and potential children. Even more troubling were rumors about Herbert's behavior toward women of his own class. Several prominent families quietly withdrew daughters from events he attended, and at least one young woman was hurriedly married to a minor Scottish lord after an unexplained incident, leaving her family demanding satisfaction and threatening social ostracism for associates. Against this background of mutual need and moral compromise, Alfred de Rothschild orchestrated one of Victorian history's most successful and ultimately destructive arranged marriages. Herbert desperately needed money to pay debts and maintain lifestyle. Almina needed respectability only an ancient title could provide. Alfred needed to secure his goddaughter's position while advancing his social ambitions through connection to an ancient earldom. Negotiations during winter 1893–94 were conducted with corporate mergers' cold-blooded precision. Terms were staggering. Alfred agreed to provide a dowry settling Herbert's debts and providing annual income maintaining Highclere appropriately. In exchange, Herbert would marry Almina, providing social position, treating her with respect due a legitimate countess, and ensuring children would be raised as unquestioned Herbert family members. No one anticipated, or chose to ignore, how completely this arrangement would corrupt all 3 participants, setting in motion events consuming them in deception, exploitation, and mutual destruction spanning nearly 3/4 century. Almina Wombwell's marriage to George Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, on June 26, 1895, was celebrated as romantic love triumphing over social convention. Newspapers reported the bride's ethereal beauty, groom's distinguished lineage, and ceremony magnificence at St. Margaret's, Westminster, where British aristocracy's cream witnessed apparent perfect union between ancient nobility and modern elegance. The wedding breakfast at Seymour Place was described in breathless detail, with attention to floral arrangements, priceless Rothschild china, and royal guests. Newspapers didn't report, and guests didn't know or chose to ignore, the sinister negotiations making marriage possible, or deeply troubling behavior patterns already emerging within the complex triangle governing life at Highclere. The marriage certificate, while legally valid, represented perhaps Victorian matrimonial history's most expensive fraud, transforming financial dependence into apparent romantic fulfillment and social ambition into mutual devotion's appearance. From the beginning, the Carnarvon marriage was less two people's union than complex business arrangement involving three parties with fundamentally incompatible interests. Alfred continued exercising enormous influence over finances, making both Almina and Herbert dependent on his goodwill. Legal documents formalizing this arrangement were Victorian financial engineering masterpieces, creating trusts, allowances, and conditional payments ensuring Alfred's control while maintaining the Earl's independence fiction. Herbert resented this dependence, powerless to escape it. His pride continually wounded by reminders of financial subservience to a man he considered socially inferior. Psychological impact was profound, leading to increasingly erratic behavior alternating between sullen resentment and explosive anger directed primarily at his wife, visible reminder of his degraded status. Meanwhile, Almina found herself caught between loyalty to her benefactor and demands of her new role as countess, requiring maintaining marriage affection fiction while managing complex web of financial and social obligations actually governing her existence. Strain showed almost immediately. Observers noted her growing controlling behavior and obvious unhappiness despite apparent social triumph. Psychological dynamics proved extraordinarily toxic. Herbert's natural weakness and moral cowardice exacerbated by financial humiliation led him seeking compensation through increasingly reckless behavior pushing aristocratic conduct boundaries. Egypt trips became longer and more frequent, stories filtering back suggested activities beyond archaeological research or health-seeking travel. Contemporary Cairo accounts describe Herbert familiar in city's most disreputable quarters, where European gentlemen indulged pleasures unthinkable in London society. Brothels, opium dens, and gambling houses catering to wealthy visitors became Herbert's primary haunts, his behavior reportedly so excessive it shocked habitually jaded proprietors. More disturbing were reports Herbert involved himself in activities bordering criminal, including Egypt's illegal antiquities trade flourishing during this period. Several sources suggest his later legitimate archaeological activities partly covered ongoing involvement smuggling ancient artifacts, lucrative but dangerous business bringing contact with Eastern Mediterranean's most unsavory characters. Meanwhile, Almina discovered her countess position, while providing craved social respectability, came with constraints and expectations often conflicting with her natural intelligence and ambition. A Victorian countess's role was largely ceremonial, endless social obligations requiring enormous expenditure but providing little genuine power or influence. She was expected to entertain, patronize charities, and serve as ornament to husband's social position, discouraged from independent opinions or unfeminine interests. Frustration manifested in increasingly controlling behavior toward household staff, social circle, and eventually anyone within her sphere. Highclere servants reported explosive anger over minor infractions, several long-term employees left citing impossible demands and unpredictable temperament. More disturbing were rumors circulating about the couple's private life. Visitors noted visible tension, careful avoidance of private conversation, and Almina's obvious unhappiness despite outward success. Entertainments were brilliantly orchestrated but somehow hollow, lacking genuine warmth characterizing truly happy households. Most troubling were questions surrounding children's parentage, particularly son Henry, born November 7, 1898. His birth should have been celebration securing succession and providing Herbert line heir. Elaborate christening in Highclere's private chapel attended by royal family representatives was celebrated as aristocratic continuity triumph. Instead, event became source of new anxieties and whispered speculations haunting family for generations. Those seeing infant noted he bore little resemblance to official parents, possessing darker coloring and distinctive facial features observers associated with Earl's close friend, Prince Victor Jaleep Singh, deposed Maharaja of Lahore's son. Prince Victor, Queen Victoria's godson and prominent London figure, had been Herbert's closest companion since Eton College. A man of extraordinary charm and sophistication possessing exotic appeal popular in drawing rooms finding conventional English gentlemen boring. His frequent Highclere visits were noted by gossips long before Henry's birth, particularly how his presence transformed Almina's demeanor from nervous anxiety to genuine happiness. Implications were staggering. If Prince Victor was Henry's father, the Carnarvon earldom heir was not actually a Herbert, but an Indian prince's illegitimate son. Such revelation would destroy family reputation and potentially invalidate Henry's inheritance, throwing Herbert's succession into legal chaos. More immediately threatening was possibility the Earl knew and used knowledge as leverage in increasingly complex relationships with wife and benefactor. Contemporary evidence suggests Herbert knew and chose to ignore it for calculated, cowardly reasons. The prince's wealth and social connections made him valuable ally when Herbert desperately needed financial support and social protection. Prince Victor's annual income from Indian estates combined with British government allowance made him London's wealthiest bachelor. His friendship provided access to investment opportunities, social connections, and financial assistance, offsetting continued dependence on Alfred. Maintaining Henry's legitimacy fiction preserved Herbert's dignity and access to Alfred's continued financial support, threatened by public acknowledgement of adultery. Arrangement allowed all parties maintaining social positions while pursuing individual interests, but created mutual blackmail and shared guilt web ultimately impossible sustaining. For Almina, situation presented different moral compromise shaping her life. She achieved everything taught to want: title, wealth, social position, but at cost living lie growing more complex and dangerous yearly. Child she loved wasn't husband's son, marriage sham maintained for financial convenience, entire social position rested on foundation of secrets exposable anytime. Psychological pressures manifested in increasingly erratic behavior worrying closest associates. Friends noted growing obsession controlling household, finances, and people around her. She developed almost pathological need maintaining detailed knowledge others' secrets, as if gathering information might protect from exposure. More ominously, Almina began displaying manipulative skills, later making her feared and influential. She learned using knowledge others' weaknesses as tools, advancing interests through subtle blackmail, strategic social ostracism, or direct coercion. What began defensive measures evolved into comprehensive system exercising power over others, extending far beyond Highclere's drawing rooms into British political and social life's highest levels. World War I's outbreak August 1914 provided Almina unexpected opportunity, reinventing herself as patriotic benefactor devoted wounded soldiers' care. Her decision converting Highclere into military hospital initially praised as aristocratic duty and selfless service example. Transformation seemed representing British aristocratic tradition's finest, sacrificing personal comfort for public service, applying private wealth to national purposes, maintaining British values facing unprecedented global crisis. Public didn't understand how completely venture reflected darker patterns already defining Almina's character: need absolute control over environment, manipulating noble causes for personal advantage, systematically exploiting vulnerable individuals dependent on her charity. Hospital project would ultimately reveal not capacity for genuine altruism, but genius disguising self-interest as public service and extracting maximum personal benefit from apparently generous gestures. Highclere's transformation was remarkable in scope and apparent generosity, representing money and effort investment few private individuals willing making. Almina spared no expense, creating arguably Britain's most luxurious medical facility, modern operating theatres with latest surgical instruments, individual rooms with fine linens and comfortable furniture, comfort far exceeding conventional military hospitals. Castle's great rooms converted into wards resembling luxury hotel suites, patient sleeping beds previously accommodating royal visitors, dining on china bearing Herbert crest. Professional nurses recruited from London's most prestigious hospitals, renowned surgeons provided medical care Harley Street private practice would envy. Operating theatres equipped most advanced medical technology available, including X-ray equipment and electric lighting, making round-the-clock surgery possible. Officers wounded in France and Belgium trenches found themselves recovering unimaginable elegance, addressed by military ranks, served meals rivaling London's finest restaurants. Contrast with brutal war zone conditions so stark many patients initially believed hallucinating, unable comprehending transportation from Western Front hell to palace dedicated comfort and recovery. But beneath aristocratic charity veneer, more troubling dynamics revealed Almina's true motivations and methods. Patient selection far from random or based purely medical need. She carefully chose men whose backgrounds, military records, and family connections aligned social and financial interests. Officers from prominent families, distinguished service records, and potential usefulness expanding influence network welcomed, enlisted men equally severe injuries quietly directed less luxurious facilities. Admission criteria less about wound severity or medical urgency than each patient's potential value long-term social and financial plans. Young aristocratic officers particularly sought gratitude convertible useful social connections years coming. Men banking, law, or government service background similarly prized professional expertise potentially valuable future business ventures. More significantly, Almina began using benefactor role cultivating network grateful dependents callable favors years coming. Psychological dynamics carefully calculated creating obligation bonds extending far beyond medical treatment, transforming temporary patients into permanent debtors understanding social and professional futures might depend continued loyalty former benefactor. Hospital psychological dynamics equally disturbing examined closely. Almina's need control manifested obsessive attention every detail patients' lives, medical treatment to personal correspondence and private conversations. She maintained detailed files each patient far beyond medical records, including family backgrounds, financial situations, personal relationships, and private confessions during most vulnerable moments. Under ensuring proper care guise, Almina instituted surveillance system impressing most paranoid Victorian patriarch. She read letters, incoming and outgoing, monitored visitors, kept detailed records conversations with other patients, nurses, and visiting family members. What presented maternal concern actually systematic information gathering program providing intimate knowledge these men's lives, weaknesses, and secrets years coming. Nurses and medical staff instructed reporting not only physical condition, but emotional state, private fears and anxieties, and personal information revealed during treatment. Intelligence network extended beyond medical staff to servants, orderlies, and other patients, creating constant observation atmosphere some perceptive officers found deeply unsettling. More troubling were rumors circulating Almina's personal relationships certain patients, particularly young officers' prominent families or particular physical attractiveness. Several wounded officers spoke privately about Countess's habit visiting rooms late night, ostensibly checking comfort and progress, but often engaging conversations designed extracting intimate confessions about fears, family situations, romantic relationships, and future plans. Nocturnal visits followed pattern increasingly recognizable experiencing them. Almina arrived patient's room dressed elegant but somewhat revealing nightwear, carrying tray brandy or medicinal spirits claiming helping sleep and pain management. She settled chair beside bed engaging patient casual conversation actually sophisticated interrogation eliciting personal information potentially useful later. Some patients described feeling uncomfortable, noting Almina unusual interest most vulnerable moments and private thoughts. Others drawn intimate conversations later regretted, revealing family, financial, or personal relationship details never shared normal circumstances. Few reported conversations taken overtones inappropriately intimate, Countess making remarks or gestures suggesting interests beyond medical or maternal concern. Earl's reaction wife's hospital activities revealed fundamental weakness and growing awareness dangerous game playing increasingly powerful potentially dangerous individuals. Privately he referred Highclere Carnarvon amputee, bitter joke reflecting resentment displaced home and suspicion Almina's motivations far purely charitable, methods creating risks ultimately destroying all. Yet Herbert powerless intervening effectively, continued financial dependence Alfred's support, and Almina's public image devoted nurse and patriotic benefactor making criticism socially impossible. Challenging hospital operations seen unpatriotic selfishness, reputation weakness and moral compromise meant objections carrying little weight public opinion or government authorities. Situation more complex potentially explosive Almina decided expanding operations London, opening second hospital 48, Bryanston Square Mayfair's most prestigious neighbourhoods. Facility, smaller Highclere, operated less oversight, becoming site activities pushing medical ethics and legal propriety boundaries shocking worldly observers. London Hospital attracted different patient class, foreign officers, government officials, wealthy civilians injured air raids war-related incidents. Location Heart London's diplomatic quarter natural gathering place international visitors, creating intelligence gathering and influence peddling opportunities Almina quick exploiting. Bryanston Square patients reported medical procedures designed more extracting information than promoting healing, including experimental drugs inducing relaxation and talkativeness, making patients unusually willing, sharing sensitive information, governments, military operations, or personal circumstances. Some described feeling drugged during treatment, experiencing confusion and memory loss, making difficult recalling said or done during stay. This period Almina began developing medical professional network, later enabling most controversial, potentially criminal activities. Dr. Harold Henry, Chief Medical Officer, both hospitals, man questionable credentials, previous practice marked several suspicious incidents, wealthy female patients requiring emergency treatment, undisclosed conditions. Under Dr. Henry's guidance, both hospitals began offering services extending far conventional military medicine, including procedures and treatments generally unavailable normal medical channels. Services nature kept strictly confidential, but contemporary records suggest included cosmetic surgery treating disfiguring war wounds, more controversial procedures addressing delicate medical conditions affecting male-female patients. Most disturbing aspect Almina's wartime activities: systematic exploitation, vulnerable individuals, patriotic duty and charitable service, name normalizing. Wounded officers benefiting care, also realizing not inducted obligation and dependent system following rest lives, creating influence network extending throughout British military, political and social leadership highest levels. Those proving useful: Almina's purposes found careers mysteriously advanced, social connections mysteriously expanded, access opportunities mysteriously improved. Recommendation letters appeared, unexpected sources, introductions, influential individuals, financial opportunities presented, convenient timing. Assistance recipients understood without explicitly told, good fortune came, expectations and obligations needing honored future. Conversely, those failing showing appropriate gratitude or reluctant participating, expanding mutual obligation network discovered, reputations just mysteriously damaged. Rumor circulated, conduct hospital stay, questions raised, fitness, promotion, important assignments, social invitations mysteriously ceased arriving. War's end, November 1918, Almina successfully transformed marginally legitimate Countess London's most influential women, commanding grateful dependents network including decorated war heroes, rising political figures, successful businessmen, past hospitals' most vulnerable moments. But methods achieving transformation created secrets, obligations, and potential exposures, web making position precarious ever. Stage setting, final most destructive career phase, consuming not only Almina, but nearly everyone entangled, increasingly complex, dangerous manipulation and deceit web. Just thought, scene depths. Almina's wartime manipulation story takes darker turn post-war years. This aristocratic corruption tale sending chills spine. Share video, someone loves dark historical mysteries. Hit like button, supporting content. Don't forget subscribe, never missing stories like this. Because happening next, showing far desperate woman going, protecting secrets, maintaining power. Lord Carnarvon's death, Cairo, April 5, 1923, marked most scandalous, destructive period Almina's life, beginning, revealing full extent capacity, deception, manipulation, and moral compromise. Official cause, blood poisoning following infected mosquito bite, visiting Tutankhamun's newly discovered tomb, provided convenient cover. Many contemporary observers suspected far more complex, sinister situation involving Earl's deteriorating health, increasingly erratic behavior, and dangerous power influence games defining marriage. Contemporary British Consulate, Cairo medical records suggest Carnarvon seriously ill weeks before death, suffering symptoms, attending physicians struggled explaining. Modern medical analysis indicates related advanced syphilis contracted, frequent Cairo notorious entertainment districts visits. Illness progression, delirium periods, violent mood swings, physical deterioration, consistent untreated venereal disease, final stages, condition impossible acknowledging, publicly destroying family reputation. More immediately significant actual death cause, consequences, carefully constructed relationships, financial arrangements, mutual dependencies, web sustaining Carnarvon household nearly 3 decades. Earl's death disrupted complex checks balances system, preventing single party gaining complete control family affairs, creating dramatic power resources distribution changes opportunities household. Alfred de Rothschild died 1918, leaving Almina financially independent but removing protective influence, shielding full actions consequences throughout adult life. Now wealthy widow, no effective oversight, no restraining influence, husband benefactor, lifetime dangerous secrets exposable anytime, enemies no longer fearing powerful protectors, retaliation. Speed Almina moving securing position husband's death revealed desperation fundamental ruthlessness protecting interests. Weeks returning Egypt Carnarvon's body began systematically liquidating Alfred estate assets, converting artwork, jewelry, valuable items cash easily hidden tax authorities potential creditors. Transactions enormous scale, Rothschild treasures hundreds thousands pounds worth sales discreet auction houses private dealers specializing sensitive disposals wealthy clients. More significantly, began distancing son Henry, new 6th Earl, whose investigations family finances threatening exposing full extent financial manipulations previous decades. Henry inherited father's title estates growing awareness irregularities potential illegalities characterizing mother's family resources management father's frequent absences. Almina-son relationships strained years, partly Henry's growing suspicions parentage, more immediately awareness mother's increasingly erratic potentially criminal behavior. Henry possessed documentation suggesting Almina systematically embezzling estate funds purposes, using chatelaine position redirecting resources maintaining Highclere associated properties personal accounts private ventures. Henry began asking uncomfortable questions hospitals true nature income sources allowing maintaining lavish facilities apparent cost profitability disregard. Investigations revealed financial irregularity suggesting hospitals used purposes beyond medical treatment, activities violating medical ethics criminal law. But Henry inherited father's title fundamental character weakness, lacking strength courage confronting mother directly misconduct, unable ignoring mounting criminality evidence. Result Cold War mother-son ultimately leading Henry's most devastating betrayal, destroying remaining family loyalty exposing Almina legal social consequences decades trying avoiding. Situation infinitely more complex dangerous Almina's hasty remarriage Lieutenant Colonel Ian Onslow Dennistown December 1923, 8 months Carnarvon's death speed shocking London scandal hardened observers. Marriage clearly motivated desperation rather affection, Almina's attempt securing protection support man moral flexibility financial needs making valuable ally potentially catastrophic liability. Dennistown everything Carnarvon not, young, handsome, charming, physically vigorous, absolutely moral scruples ethical constraints. Also deeply debt, recently divorced scandalous circumstances carrying secrets making valuable extremely dangerous marriage partner. Military record, superficially impressive, concealed behavior pattern repeatedly bringing superior officers attention reasons nothing professional competence. Almina Dennistown courtship circumstances revealed full extent moral corruption willingness engaging criminal activity protecting position advancing interests. Met Paris 1920 to 3 years Carnarvon's death husband Egypt ostensibly France medical treatment hospital work. Meeting arranged intermediaries specializing facilitating discreet relationships wealthy individuals seeking companionship services unobtainable conventional social channels. Almina immediately began providing Dennistown substantial financial support exchange services beyond companionship social escort duties. Dennistown's primary value Almina willingness serving front increasingly sophisticated money laundering operations, allowing moving funds bank accounts concealing true ownership tax authorities, creditors, family members questioning financial activities. Money laundering scheme operated shell companies network, offshore accounts, complex financial instruments allowing converting Alfred estate assets untraceable cash maintaining legitimate business transactions appearance. Dennistown's military connections provided international banking systems foreign exchange markets access difficult Almina accessing directly, social connections provided cover transactions otherwise attracting unwanted authorities' attention. More disturbing later legal proceedings evidence suggesting Almina Dennistown lovers Carnarvon alive, conducting affair brazenness shocking London's jaded observers accustomed discreet extramarital arrangements upper classes. Contemporary diary entries letters private archives describe encounters London Paris locations, hotels, private clubs, Almina's hospital facilities. Dennistown frequent visitor both hospitals war, ostensibly patient receiving treatment minor injuries military service, actually serving accomplice financial schemes intelligence gathering operations. Relationship open secret certain circles years Carnarvon's death made legally marrying possible, several prominent society figures later testifying assuming couple already married name. Marriage Dennistown brought Almina direct contact Dorothy Dennistown, Colonel's first wife, whose story revealed moral depravity depths characterizing social circles. Almina moving arrangements, wealthy powerful individuals willing making pursuing personal professional interests. Dorothy Dennistoun, considerable complexity, moral ambiguity figure, effectively prostituted husband General Sir John Cohen's, British Army Quartermaster General, exchange military promotions, lucrative business opportunities, advancing Dennistoun's career, providing government contracts, insider information access, used personal profit. Dorothy husband General Cohen's arrangement continued years. World War I, Dorothy serving general's mistress remaining legally married Dennistoun. Triangular relationship, providing parties sexual gratification, financial benefits, professional advancement desired, maintaining careful respectability, veneer protecting public scandal. Dorothy's position powerful, precarious, possessing intimate knowledge, government secrets, military operations, making valuable lovers simultaneously, potential security risk eliminated, inconvenient, demanding. General Cohen's relationship provided classified information, government contracts, high-level military planning, access far beyond civilian allowed knowing. Dorothy learning Dennistoun's wealthy Countess Carnarvon marriage saw opportunity, escaping degrading arrangement, defining adult life, simultaneously gaining financial security, making independent, former husband military lover. Alimony demand, Dennistoun promised never paid, surface simple contract enforcement, marital obligation. Reality, Dorothy's legal action, direct threat, entire lies system, financial manipulation, criminal activity. Almina constructed previous 3 decades. Dorothy possessed detailed knowledge, Dennistoun Almina financial arrangements, money laundering operations, tax evasion schemes, illegal activities resulting criminal prosecution, imprisonment. Both. More dangerously, Dorothy's intimate General Cohen's relationship provided government intelligence, Almina's hospital wartime operations access, reports suggesting facilities, espionage activities, illegal medical procedures, criminal enterprise forms far beyond charitable work presented public. Resulting court case, Dennistoun v. Dennistoun King's Bench Division High Court March 1925, became decade's most sensational legal proceedings, exposing not only Dorothy's arranged prostitution, sordid details, corrupt military contracts enriching lovers, but Almina's financial crimes, moral compromises, vulnerable systematic exploitation full extent. Trial lasted 17 days, generating newspaper coverage rivaling royal scandals, public attention, social impact. Oath, perjury charges, threat facing, Almina forced admitting adultery, money laundering, tax evasion, wounded soldiers, systematic exploitation, personal gain, illegal medical procedures, participation endangering patients' lives, trusting care. Most damaging revelation, trial testimony, several former hospital patients describing systematic sexual exploitation pattern, financial extortion, medical malpractice, revealing charitable work, carefully constructed criminal enterprise front. Wounded officers spoke, pressured intimate countess relationships, blackmailed information gathered, vulnerable moments, forced participating financial schemes, not understanding, ultimately enriching Almina expense. More shocking testimony regarding London nursing homes, multiple witnesses described illegal abortion services fronts, wealthy women desperate avoiding social scandal, criminal prosecution. Dr. Harold Henry testifying, immunity prosecution revealed Almina personally performed dozens illegal procedures, medical facilities generating enormous profits, placing patients grave physical risk, exposing potential blackmail, illegal services need. Jury verdict, Dennistoun case, technically Almina husband victory, rejecting Dorothy's financial claims, came cost effectively destroying everything, lifetime building, leaving vulnerable, exposure, retribution, career deception, exploitation. Point. Legal decision, favor going, reputational damage, catastrophic, irreversible, exposing social ostracism, financial ruin, criminal prosecution, defining remainder life. Immediate financial costs staggering, consuming nearly £400,000, remaining wealth, legal fees, court costs, related expenses representing decades' largest judgments. Reputational damage proved devastating, monetary loss, London society tolerated Almina's eccentricities, overlooked questionable behavior, maintaining respectability, veneer providing influential individuals valuable services, now ostracized completely, permanently. Social circles once competed, attention now treating pariah, former friends, associates publicly distancing connection activities. Important social events, invitation ceased arriving, charitable organizations quietly removed name boards, patron lists, tradespeople previously eager serving Countess Carnarvon now demanded cash payment, advance services. More devastating family response, particularly son Henry using mother's legal troubles opportunity launching comprehensive financial activities investigation Carnarvon estate impact. Henry discovered systematic embezzlement pattern, fraud, asset stripping decades back, misappropriating Alfred funds provided, Highclere art collection systematic looting, library holdings, valuable assets rightfully belonging estate Almina personally. Investigation revealed Almina selling family treasures years, proceeds funding personal lifestyle, hospital operations, increasingly expensive social position political influence maintaining efforts. Priceless paintings replaced clever forgeries, rare books manuscripts sold private collectors, valuable jewelry systematically replaced paste copies passing casual inspection worthless. Theft scope breathtaking audacity, merely money-taking, centuries family heritage cultural patrimony systematic destruction. Herbert family generations items, monarchs gifts, genuine historical significance artifacts, converted cash supporting personal ambitions criminal enterprises. 1951, Acting Henry detailed information armed private investigators estate behalf gathered evidence, Inland Revenue formally charged Almina tax evasion covering multiple decades demanding back taxes, penalties, interest payment consuming remaining fortune leaving criminal prosecution imprisonment possibility facing. Tax case revealed financial crimes full sophistication, offshore accounts, shell companies, complex money laundering schemes allowing hiding millions pounds British tax authorities legitimate charitable business activities fiction maintaining. Investigation systematic fraud evidence dating marriage early years uncovered, suggesting criminal activities began almost immediately Highclere arrival continuing uninterrupted 5 decades. Once commanding millions pounds wielding British society highest levels influence woman found declared bankrupt for selling remaining possessions satisfying creditors' tax obligations. Bankruptcy proceedings true financial desperation extent revealed, minimal value items seized sole debt repayment generating funds. Final decades Almina's life relentless downward spiral marking, suffering inflicted others exploitation manipulation career mirroring design seeming. Dennis Downs chronic asthma death 1938 left alone increasingly desperate, former associates charity dependent remembering power feeling obligation supporting decline disgrace. Nursing home business restarting attempts failed repeatedly, partly damaged reputation, methods previously generating profits no longer tolerable morally flexible circles once moving. Medical facilities government oversight substantially increased war since, unregulated establishments kind previously providing income exploitation opportunities operating impossible. Most pathetically, Almina final years Tutankhamun tomb discovery connection trading spent, popular magazines articles writing, lectures promising famous archaeological find insider secrets revealing expedition financing discovery possible making rollabout. Even efforts tainted truth self-serving fiction distinguishing inability, increasingly elaborate Howard Carter relationship personal excavation process involvement stories inventing leading. Lectures articles mind lost reality distinguishing ability elaborate fantasies constructed actions justifying self-important sense maintaining revealed. Contemporary accounts genuine historical information obvious fabrications mixing presentations describe, clearly deteriorating mental faculties woman delivering, attention admiration center compulsive need maintaining. NK May 8, 1969 modest Bristol Terrace house Almina and Ledbetter former employee living, decades mistreatment financial exploitation despite remaining loyal. And worked Almina since 1930s, initially medical facilities nurse, later general companion housekeeper practical support providing basic daily life standards maintaining Almina needing. Official cause death, chicken gristle piece choking dinner eating, almost cruelly appropriate woman life consuming safely handling more spending whether wealth, power, others secrets vulnerabilities terms. Death swift apparently painless, but increasing isolation years end came. Poverty, mental deterioration reducing generation's most powerful women forgotten elderly lady obscurity living. Yet death, controversy generating final wounds inflicting capacity continued manifesting. Will read several weeks funeral after revealed vindictiveness final act manipulation family members ultimately rejecting social institutions abandoned need time directed at. Rather remaining estate son Henry grandchildren inheriting once vast fortune remains leaving. Almina Anthony Ledbetter bulk assets bequeathing chose, and son final years caring showing loyalty attention own family withdrawn. Decision partly led better family genuine gratitude motivated, practical emotional support providing nowhere turning. But Almina throughout life knowing understood bequest final revenge act against crimes exposing son title estates once controlled inheriting grandson also representing. Almina's extensive personal papers discovery, diaries, correspondence death after historians biographers unprecedented window woman mind systematically corrupted everything touching long destructive career throughout providing. Own words thousands handwritten notes pages private reflections preserved, narcissism, paranoia marked personality, reality elaborate fictions constructed actions justifying self-image maintaining between distinguishing almost complete inability revealing. Diaries 50 years life covering, major crimes scandals documenting only, psychological processes allowing normal moral development individuals unthinkable behavior rationalizing also. Woman genuinely convinced herself others' exploitation actually serviced them form, wartime good work done British society contributions criminal activities justified revealing. Perhaps disturbing Almina's apparent belief life very until maintained, various scandals criminal prosecutions later years defining victim rather perpetrator been. Diaries ingratitude helped claiming those about bitter complaints filled, society contributions appreciating failed those jealousy, true nature value understanding refusing legal social system unfairness about. Final entries increasingly shaky hand months death before written, fantasy almost completely retreated mind, life story elaborate alternative versions constructing misunderstood benefactor whose only crime unworthy assistance toward people excessive generosity proven appearing witch. This remarkable story power deception built systematic exploitation through maintained ultimately wielding those completely destroying victim fall those consumes showing us. Almina Herbert, Countess Carnarvon, wealth thought wanting everything achieved, title, social position, British society most powerful individuals influence over. But corruption moral compromise through goals pursuing, destroying would forces very creating. Life aristocratic privilege glittering world dark mirror serving, Downton Abbey productions like popular culture fascinating continues, elegant facades refined manners British upper classes behind human capacity greed same, exploitation, moral corruption every society every historical period existing laying revealing. This extraordinary story think? Circumstances control beyond victim ultimately Almina believe. Or suffering countless others own destruction calculating architect. Comments below leaving thoughts ambition remarkable tale, corruption, ultimate justice sharing. History's most scandalous complex figures deep dive enjoying, channel subscribing, notification bell hitting, respectable society surface beneath hidden darker truths appreciating anyone video sharing. Fiction any than shocking far often truth seen ve, real Downton Abbey kill secrets place could, ultimate price power came, carefully constructed lies even contradictions own weight under eventually crumbling.